Hey guys, this is Sergio from the band Rise to the Sky, one man doom from Santiago, Chile, and you are watching Metal DNA. So today we're gonna talk about doom metal in general, which is quite difficult because it involves so many different types of sounds and bands, but we're gonna make the effort to combine them into one single conversation. So I would say that the main characteristic of doom metal is that it's slow, the tempo is low, the riffs are heavy, and they are played in low keys. I would say that's the general characteristic of doom. So within that you have different subgenres. For instance, my band is often considered atmospheric death doom metal because it has atmospheric elements or ambient elements in the music, and it also has influences from death metal in the way that it has growling vocals. But it's doom because it's slow and it's heavy. So atmospheric death doom metal. And then you have a bunch of other different subgenres. I'm gonna talk a little bit about them. For instance, you have funeral doom. Funeral doom, it's a type of doom that it's extremely slow, kind of like a funeral march, and it usually has growling vocals. Some bands that play this music are Shape of Despair, Ahab, Frowning, Clouds, and Ionian Sorrow, which I have a CD here in case you want to check it out. It's their latest release, Alive Without. This is a really interesting album. They have a female singer that sings clean vocals, and then they have a male singer that sings the growling vocals, and their music is really interesting. So if you want to check it out, please do. Then other types of doom metal, death doom, which has elements borrowed from death metal in the way that it has growling vocals. So some bands are Saturnus, Evadne, and Oak from Portugal. Stoner doom, this is a genre which I would say is the most different and particular within doom because it has different, I would say it has specific topics and issues that the music talks about, and it's usually psychedelic issues, or it has like a more psychedelic feeling to it. Of course there are exceptions. I mean, this is the general view of or my view of stoner doom. Some bands that play this music are Sleep, Acid King, Weed Eater, Monolord, and they have all very low tuned guitars in the key of C. A regular guitar is tuned in the key of E, so this is 2 steps down, the key of C. It's really low and heavy. They usually incorporate fuzz effects into their guitars and their bass, so it's a very particular sound, and I would say it's a very interesting psychedelic sound, like you can get into a trance listening to it. Traditional doom is usually related to Black Sabbath, Cathedral, those bands that are the classics. They don't have growling vocals, but they were like the pioneers of the genre. Melodic doom, this is an interesting subgenre within doom metal because it incorporates melodies into the music. One band that it's pretty interesting is from Greece. I have their album right here, Ocean of Grief. Nightfall's Lament is their latest release. Um, it's really good. They have really good metal melodies, high quality sound. So it's also like very characteristic of melodic doom metal, rolling vocals, really good. Daylight Dice is also a band of melodic doom, which is really interesting, and you should definitely check it out. Gothic doom, incorporating gothic elements, since I don't know, it has like a gothic vibe within it. Some bands that play this are Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride. I'm not saying that those bands are entirely gothic doom, but they have kind of a gothic doom sound maybe in some albums. Um, they obviously have done different stuff before and after, but yeah, I would say that they have in some albums incorporated some of these gothic elements. Some key albums and some key bands. I mean, these are like, in my opinion, the must listen to if you are not really familiar with the genre. I would say My Dying Bride, that's one of the classic bands of doom metal, and I would recommend listening to The Dreadful Hours. Another band which is very interesting is Celestial Season. They have an album called Solar Lovers. Solar Lovers, this is a classic album. I remember listening to this around the year 95, could be 96, and it was really like mind-blowing because they are incorporating at this time violins, cellos into the music, really slow tempo, really heavy vocals, rolling vocals. The drumming is really good, the sound is really good. It sounds really good to this day. So they actually have a re-release this year of this album, Solar Lovers, along with a new one. So check it out. That's also very good and very interesting. For Funeral Doom, I would definitely recommend the band Funeral. They are apparently they created Funeral Doom. So they have an album which is called In the Fields of Pestilent Grief, which was launched back in the day, and the most interesting element in my opinion is that it has female clean vocals, and they fit really well into the music, and the melodies they have, they're really beautiful and very nice to listen, so do check it out. Shape of Despair is a classic band, really good one, and I would recommend listening to the album Angels of Distress. In my opinion, the music is great. The melodies, I would say, are kind of simple in some way, but so touching and moving that you really get into the music. It really touches you, and you can feel the sounds, you can feel the music. And what about new bands, new music that is being released? There's a lot of new music out there, and I would recommend listening to, for instance, Ailes in Gaza. This one-man band released an album this year through Solitude label from Russia, and it really pushed the boundaries, in my opinion, of doom. They incorporated a lot of acoustic string instruments, different types of vocals. They have one song that it's, I think, over 20 minutes or so. The protagonist, really good and really unique and different, I would say, so definitely check it out. Oak from Portugal They play atmospheric death doom, and it's interesting because it's only two members in the band, the drummer and then the guitarist and vocalist. But their sound is very powerful. The vocals are rolling vocals and they're super heavy. It's a really interesting listen also. Sunset Forsaken is a band from Russia, from my friend Andrei Tolok. He just released an album this year, 85 Nerves. It's also really, it's 4 songs, but really, really good songs that have different shifts. The guitar playing is really good. This man can play guitar. I mean, he's really good at it. And the vocals are very, very powerful. It's a very interesting listen. From Portugal, Ashes of Life, they also released an album this year. And the most interesting thing, in my opinion, is that they do a really good combination of clean and rolling vocals. And the music is quite touching when you combine those two elements. So it's really recommended. Check it out. And another band is from Jordan, the Dead Sea. This one-man band plays melodic death doom metal, and I would say that the compositions are really good, the atmospheres are really good, but the thing that caught my attention the most is the subjects. The subjects that they involve in their latest album, the ceremony of marrying a mummy, is kind of mind-blowing in my opinion. Apparently it's a true story about a person that was in love with a woman that died, but then he carried on his love with the mummy. So the album expresses that idea or that story through the songs, and it's a really interesting music and lyrics and subject. It kept me thinking about it for days. Check it out, The Dead Sea. Also, I want to discuss a little bit about Chile, because Chile is a kind of a hub for doom metal. Nobody really knows why, but there are really a lot of good doom metal bands in Chile. Just to name a few, Poema Arcanus, they have decades of experience on doom metal, and they have just released an album, Stardust Solitude, which is extremely heavy, has clean and rolling vocals, really good guitar and bass guitar playing. It's really, really, really good. Mar de Grises is a legendary band from Chile. They also relaunched some of their albums this year as vinyl, so also check it out. And Endymion, this is a band that combines, I would say, doom metal and some black metal elements maybe, but it's really powerful. It's a really adrenaline rush, so you should definitely listen to them also. But in the end, and just to wrap it up, I would say that doom, at least for me, is the most interesting subgenre, because it's, in my opinion, very humanistic in the way that it involves or talks about very deep human emotions, philosophical issues, existential problems. So when you listen to doom metal and to doom metal bands, you really get an impression of what the person this feeling of what the musicians are trying to express, and it's really touching, I would say. The music expresses feelings very well. So definitely go and check out some of these doom metal bands. There's a lot of music out there, and I'm sure that you're gonna enjoy it. Again, this is Sergio from the band Rise to the Sky. It's a one-man doom metal band from Santiago, Chile, and you are watching Metal DNA.